On today's episode, by request, Chris Betcher talks Clydesdales and Athenas. What are Athenas and Clydesdales? Athena is the Greek goddess of wisdom and war and was worshipped throughout the ancient Greek world. A Clydesdale is a big horse. This is the world's toughest podcast. Welcome to the world's toughest podcast, where we talk about any obstacle course race you'd like, as long as that's world's toughest mudder. Each week we talk to members of the WTM community and share stories of success and failure in the single greatest event in OCR. My name is Will Hicks, and this is the world's toughest podcast. Today on the show is Chris Betcher, by request, talking Clydesdales and Athenas. A Clydesdale is a guy over 200 pounds, and an Athena is a woman over 150. Last year at World's Toughest Mudder, Chris ran 75 miles as a Clydesdale, and then wrote an article about his experience for Obstacle Racing Media. You can find a link to the article on our Facebook page at facebook.com/worldstoughestpod. I know you ran in our talk, Chris and I get into the details of how he got 75 miles and give you some things you can do to hit that goal as well.
Other events.
Before we talk to Chris, let's give away some shoes. Merrill and World's Toughest Podcast are giving away a pair of the Merrill Agility Peak Flex trail running shoes this month and every month leading up to World's Toughest Mudder. But if you'd like to win a pair of shoes, send an email to worldstoughestpodcast@gmail.com with Merrill in the subject line.
I got kind of a list.
In the body of the email, write three things: your name, your email address, and your phone number. This will add you to our email list and make you eligible for exciting prizes like the free shoes. These are great shoes. I was running with the Merrill All-Out Crush for a while, which are good for regular tough runners, but the Agility Peak Flex shoes have more padding, which is great for longer races like Toughest and World's Toughest Mudder. But yeah, Morgan Mackay and I talked about this a couple weeks ago, but between the Agility Peak Flex shoes and the Mud Gear ankle socks that I wear now, I don't have to worry about anything from the ankles down. It's great.
It thrills me. So.
The winner of the Merrill Agility Peak Flex shoes is Brian Reynolds.
Yeah, no problem.
Brian, congratulations. You'll receive an email in a few days with details on how to claim your prize.
You're doing really well.
Last thing before we talk to Chris, could you do me a favor? Can you leave a review for the show on iTunes? I would appreciate it. It's time to talk to Chris Betcher. Let's go to the phones.
Hey, Will.
Hey, Chris, how are you?
Good.
Chris, before we get into World's Toughest and the Clydesdale stuff, you ran Toughest Mudder in Atlanta. What did you think of that?
That was good. It was nice because it was somewhat humid, and it was kind of eerie when you're running through the woods and you got the humidity coming down on you. But it was a change up from other events, obviously because it's dark and everything too. I don't know. I thought it was a really fun course.
What do you think of the whole competitive series they rolled out this year?
It's interesting because it goes against what everything stop as, but I get it. I've always said I don't know how long OCR is going to last, but if we keep innovating like this, or the companies keep innovating like this, then that's great. Because I want this around as long as possible.
Some people listening may have seen you on course and not known it was you. How do you usually dress at a Tough Mudder?
I'm the guy that wears fishnets all the time. And it started off innocently enough in a Wisconsin event. I want to say 2013 or 14. I had this stripper shirt, the fishnet shirt that I had laying around from something from way back. And I talked to my friend Dan Kubas because he always runs with me, and I'm like, hey, what if we wore those things? I think it'd be hilarious. I'm like, all right, let's do it. And it gets mixed receptions. Women love it. They think it's hilarious. Guys just kind of put up with me. But now every year I've been just trying to one-up it, and now I've just got down to fishnet underwear.
You've got a wife, right? What does she think about you raiding her closet?
Unfortunately, I am recently divorced.
Oh, jeez, Chris, I'm sorry. I'll cut that out. I won't. Oh, shoot.
No, you don't even have to. Actually, I was going to touch base on that anyways, about how mental health actually can help, or how it affects your racing. So, yeah, if you want to go back into that, I don't care. That's fine.
Yeah. No, we'll talk about that. How does mental health affect your racing?
mental health is a huge
Special
deal.
Thanks to Chris Betcher for appearing in this episode. Well done,
all
Chris.
Last year I was really positive. I was having an amazing year.
For more information.
And I carried that all the way into
special thanks to my dog
Worlds.
Making a guest appearance
and after Worlds, I was flying as high as I could possibly be. I mean, it was just an amazing year of racing and accomplishments.
Thanks a lot.
And a couple of days before New Year's, my wife decided to hang it up, and she wanted a divorce, and she's moving out. And I will say that mentally just destroyed me, and it was a really rough time. I mean, a lot of things cascaded from that. But I figured, let's get back into my racing. I couldn't wait for the season to start, and I found out right away. It's like, where the hell is my energy? What the F happened? Am I just really that mentally destroyed right now that I'm having a hard time running? It's, like Atlanta, I had a goal of 35. I'm like, that shouldn't be hard for me. And towards halfway mark, you start bargaining with yourself. It's like, man, maybe I'll just do 30. And I would have never done something like that, last year. And then by the end of it, I'm like, you know what? I'll get my contender status. I'm good. Again, that's not my racing style. I push hard. I just get my head down and get to work. And I sat and I thought about it a lot. The mental aspect of this sport is huge. And if you've got a lot of other crap happening in your life, it can really affect your racing. And that's really bummed me out lately. So I'm working as hard as I can to get myself back up to my game and what I'm used to.
You didn't mention it, but one of the things that I pulled out of that is that doing a lot of racing can be tough on a marriage. Traveling a lot, being gone on weekends.
Yeah. Racing a lot does put a huge strain on it. And, in the end, my marriage didn't last for a couple of reasons, but the main one was that we grew apart. And I fell in love with OCR racing, and I'm the kind of guy, when I put myself into something, I am full bore. And I really did. I was traveling a lot, and I was gone a lot of weekends. It seemed like everything was very supportive and working well, but like I said, the whole announcement caught me completely off guard.
You've run World's Toughest Mudder twice. In 2016, you got the 75 miles we're talking about, but in your first year, you got 50 miles. You mentioned in an article on ORM you weren't happy with how you performed that first year. Why was that? Going
into it, it was like, all right, cool, 50 miles should be easy. I want that 75 miles, but I didn't say anything too loud. But you get out there and you realize it's like, holy crap, this is really rough and it's tough to do. And I realized towards the end, I think it was the last 3 or 4 laps, I was like, all right, cool. I could just walk these last laps and I'm good. I'll coast into my 50 and I'll have done the event. And that was all fine and good. Then I got home and I sat on it for a while and I'm like, why the hell did I slow down? That's unlike me. And I started reformulating. Like, well, what am I going to do next? And it's like, I really should reach for that 75 goal. So I started really hitting events hard, doing 3-lap Saturdays, 1-lap Sundays, and traveling around. And, before Worlds last year, I made a post. And I'm like, all right, it's 75 miles this year. And then you show up at the event and people start asking, so 75, huh? And you're like, yeah, well, I have to at least dangle a carrot out there so that I can reach for something. And you can always just see the eye roll right away. People are like, really? A guy your size, Clydesdale, going to hit 75, huh? And it's like, I'm just going to be quiet about it. I'm going to put my head down and I'm going to do it.
You wrote a whole article for Obstacle Racing Media about how you reached 75 miles as a Clydesdale.
Yeah.
What is a Clydesdale?
Clydesdale and Athenas. So Clydesdale is any athlete who runs over 200 pounds in weight. Athenas, it's 150 pounds. And so basically, I was approached a while back by Brian Muti and Daniel Kramer. And they said, hey, we were thinking it'd be kind of cool to have a Clydesdales Athena group on Facebook. and kind of what you've done, we think you should be the face of it. And I'm like, well, that's pretty awesome. I mean, you could have picked a better looking guy, but, all right, I'll totally do it. So basically we got 132 people in the group now, and it's full of just a wide range of people, and we're all heavier people in all different shapes. But I think what's wonderful about it is you realize that we can perform. We may have to work a little bit harder for it, but we're putting up numbers, huge, huge numbers. We got Daniel Kramer just made a post the other day, and he made a challenge. He said, all right, cool. Let's everyone put up your fastest 1 mile run on a treadmill or whatever. Then he showed a picture, sub 6 minute mile as a certified Clydesdale. That's pretty damn good. I don't think I could do that.
That is impressive. Athena is the female equivalent, right? The 150 for a female?
Yes, yeah. Our group is full of pretty amazing people. I mentioned Daniel Kramer earlier, Sharkbait, Mike Weaver, just a whole list of us. And I love every one of them because it's just so nice to see people out there doing it and just saying, all right, cool. I'm not going to be a Ryan Atkins, but I can at least be somewhere behind them or try to keep up or whatever we can do. But no, I think it's a great thing that we can all kind of share stories, share advice, talking about fitting clothes. I mean, some people have a real hard time finding the right stuff. And, why not have a group of people who run a little bit heavier, who know what works well for them?
And these are unofficial terms. Tough Mudder doesn't have weight classes.
No, not at all. This is something we just kind of created, and the name's been around for some years, I'm sure. And I would absolutely love to see Tough Mudder just at least give a head nod at some point and be like, all right. This is Clydesdale and Athena that put up the most miles or whatever. I think that would be an amazing thing because the sport is just full of all sizes of people. And, it's a lot harder for some people, and some people just can wheel right through it.
What are some of the topics that you guys cover in the Facebook group? You mentioned fitting clothes. What are some of the other kind of Clydesdale-specific advice that people look for?
Nutrition is covered a little bit. Where people are going to race. It's still a social group, so we're all like, all right, cool. What's going on in your life, and I guess strategies too. Some people have a hard time getting over some of the obstacles. I've seen a bunch of people tackle like Berlin walls, and you're like, oh wow, okay, I haven't seen that method before, but holy crap, does that work? That's for a bigger person. That's awesome. So people share their strategies too. So that's always a thing because we've all done it. We've all walked up to, say again, like Berlin walls or something else like that, and we've seen the one person just staring at it. And they're, they may be at Clydesdale and Athena, and you could just see the fear in their eyes. Our group is there to kind of show or coach and whatever we can, so that person, the next time they come up to it, now there's no fear. Then they got a game plan, and that's that's going to help them along to keep doing OCR, so they're not discriminated and they get working more towards a healthy lifestyle. You could still be very, very healthy and be a Clydesdale and Athena.
You had a line in the article that I liked. I look like a guy who loves beer and pizza, mainly because I truly love beer and pizza.
Yeah.
What did you weigh going into World's Toughest 2016?
206 pounds, which was pretty good because I dropped it down from probably 220 earlier in the year. I used to, basically, how it all started is my wife at the time signed me up for a Warrior Dash, and this had to be 2012 or something like that, and I pretty much told her to F off. But, I weighed 250 pounds. I was a pretty big guy, and I didn't really notice the weight creep, but I ran it, and I absolutely loved the idea of it because I didn't have to sit there and run a road race and be bored. I'm actually really quite effective at obstacles. So throw a bunch of obstacles in there, I'm not nearly hating life as much. So, that's what started the spark, and that's how I started dropping so much weight. So I love these smaller events, the 5Ks, the mud runs, things like that, because you get to see the people who are probably scared shitless. Most people are like, okay, I can run a 5K, whatever. But it's a stepping stone, and they're moving towards being a healthier lifestyle. And I think that's one of the most wonderful things around.
Reading the article, I think it's important to note that you're not just a guy who weighs 200 plus that decided to run World's Toughest. You've done 25 plus Tough Mudder events. You run multiple laps. Sometimes you run 3 laps on a Saturday. Can you talk about the work you put in leading up to World's Toughest?
I think a lot of it was just grinding it out, making sure I get lap days in. And I think I'm up to 36 events now, maybe a little bit more. I can actually keep a spreadsheet about this, just I haven't looked at it in a while. The other work that I do is, I'm fortunate enough, I live in Minnesota, and right before Worlds, a few weeks before the taper, I go up north. My father's got his house, I call it cabin, that's just on a river, and there's a perfect 9-mile loop that goes around that ends up right back at his house, and then there's a bridge that's in the over the river. So we start night ops. We put our wetsuits on, headlamps, blinkies, all that stuff, and we get used to running in that stuff because it had been a while since you've done it last, and you got to remember it's like, oh yeah, your arms start to hurt after a while because it feels like you're wearing rubber bands, and okay, I got to remember that, or maybe adjust some things. And what we do is we run to the end of the driveway, jump off the bridge into the river, and this is, late October, so it's cold. The water's about to freeze. And we swim across the bay, back up to my father's place, run back down the driveway, at the 9-mile loop. Finish the 9-mile loop, jump off into the river again, swim across, go and do another 9-mile loop. And Drake Stumbo has busted my balls recently saying, hey, that wasn't a full night ops. So, Drakey Poo, coming for this year, we're actually going to do a sundown, sunup night ops before Worlds this year. So, that's just an example of the things that we try to do to really learn what the suck is going to be. And you don't just show up to the event and find out it's like, oh, man, I did not train hard enough, or I am woefully unprepared for this kind of torture. So, yeah, you got to put in not just the work, you got to put in the weird work.
Ideally, how many miles a week do you run?
Lately, I would say with the mental things I was talking about earlier, not nearly as much as I'd like to. I have to keep a pretty busy schedule with other things, but I still run Shark Baits Challenge. It used to be 80 to 100 miles a month. I've gone as low as 50 miles, but I usually get it. I think there's only been 1 month that I didn't make the cutoff. And quite honestly, that was because of the divorce. There was no way I was out there running, doing anything. I'm stepping the mileage goals back up, so I think I requested 80 this next month coming up here, so I'm excited to get back up into that.
Sharkbait does a running challenge for members of the World's Toughest Mudder community every month where people can pick how many miles they want, and it's just a little accountability group for running.
And I think it's one of the most wonderful things around because it's tough to get off the couch or do whatever you want, or, we're all busy. But if you've got a bunch of other people hounding you or trailing you, and you see the stats, it's like, oh, crap, this person just passed me. I can't let that happen. So you get out there and you run. And that, Melissa Sharkbait's challenge has pushed so many people, and I think it's just been a wonderful opportunity for all of us.
Do you train weights or do CrossFit? What's your upper body regimen like?
Well, like I said earlier, I'm actually pretty decent at most obstacles, which is nice. But I am sponsored through Orange Theory Fitness, which is really nice. I've been going there for years, and they, I told the head trainer, I'm like, hey, you wouldn't believe what I just did after I came back from Worlds last year. And he's like, holy crap, that's amazing. And he just, then I became kind of a sponsored person through them. So they let me just do unlimited gym workouts, which is really nice. So other than that, it's just a lot of running. I'm not the fastest runner around. I'm just really, really good at grinding.
In the article, you said before the race, and you mentioned it earlier, that you made it Facebook official. You told everyone you were going for 75 miles. What happened when you did that?
That's where I saw the eye rolls and the eyebrow raises. And I just knew if I don't put it on myself, I'm not even going to have a chance. I'm going to settle for something. And we don't settle. We don't go to Worlds to be like, I want to just hang out and watch it all. No, we're all pretty damn competitive. It's the race against each other, but we're also going to help one another. So, there was a few people who were like, hell yeah, you can do it. And in the back of my mind, I still didn't believe I could, but it was a fast course. The obstacle changes that were made were fitting to me. So I was able to do, what I wanted. And I got to come home with a silver bib, and I will wear that damn bib at every event. I don't care what anybody says. That is my pride right there. I absolutely love it.
How important was that goal for you going into the race?
As I mentioned, I still had doubts, but I wanted it to be. I don't really break. I really rarely get injured. So my two goals were make sure you get the 24 hours and go to 75. So they were both equally important. But then maybe there was a little bit of, it's funny, when I got back to the pit, I was pitting around a bunch of people who are some serious contenders, and they're sitting at 65 and 70 miles. And they just kind of looked at me like, you gotta be shitting me. So, and I think even somebody started the hashtag Beat Betcher. So, and I invite it. Oh my God, I want people to hit that goal so bad, because quite honestly, it's a huge amount of pride to be able to do something like that.
How prepared did you feel going into the race?
Really well prepared, mainly because I had done the night runs that I was talking about earlier, which I'll be stepping up and doing more of this year. I had done so many events and triple lapped and 4-lap weekends, which is interesting now with the format changes of tougher and then tougher, toughest, all this stuff. You kind of have to pick and choose so you can perform in one or lollygag in the other. And, it should make it interesting this year to try to get prepared. I get the feeling that, a classic example is Atlanta. I'm like, I'm just going to walk that Saturday morning and just get a course layout. I couldn't do it. I just started running. And that was probably detrimental to me for the overnight race. I probably shouldn't have done it, but I felt so good to be back out on the course. I was burning off some mental health stuff, and I was burning off some anxiety. Being prepared is kind of our end goal. So, I'm going to be watching that a little bit more now, trying to get really strategic, because I've got Minnesota, Wisconsin, Chicago, possibly Seattle, and possibly the Carolinas. And I'm going to do as many laps as I can in those things, but, I got to make sure I don't break myself too.
So for 2016, World's Toughest Mudder starts out with a sprint lap where all the obstacles are closed for the first hour. What was your plan or your strategy for the first hour of the race?
And that's the thing, is that I'm still not the fastest guy around, but I knew get through at least one lap, because I know the year before they started opening up obstacles pretty much I think I had just over an hour, and it was probably an hour and 5 minutes or something like that. So this year I'm like, well, I want to beat that buzzer. So I think I did like 50 minutes, and then started strategizing. It's like, all right, second lap, that buzzer hasn't gone off yet. Let's see how many obstacles I can get through so that I could actually kind of keep the second lap as much of a sprint lap. And I got all the way to Humpchuck, and that was nice. It was all right, cool. I can keep a good pace now.
How did you handle the pit area and the lap transitions? How much time did you spend in the pit?
As minimal as possible. I realized in 2015, I was sitting there eating an entire turkey sandwich and hydrating and not really paying attention. I didn't spend a ton of time in the pits. I realized that 2016, I want to be in and out in minutes, just a couple of minutes. So I pre-mix all my tailwind. I had Angie Thierry is an amazing pit crew, and she took care of me the entire time. So she had everything ready to go for me. And what I ended up doing is at midnight, I had 40 miles in. I'm like, all right, cool. I know I'm probably going to slow down a little bit more. So I told Angie, I'm like, here's my backpack. I want all my nutrition and everything that I need, my hydration, my tailwind. I want it in the backpack. And I want, when I come into the pit, I want you to meet me as close as possible and just shove this crap down my throat. I'll run with my bottle of tailwind. And that was it. And I had the pits down to probably under 2 minutes, 3 maybe. And that's key. If you're not running and you're not going forward progress, your goals are diminishing. That's opportunities lost.
I saw a picture of you drinking what looks like Mountain Dew from a mason jar. What's your nutrition strategy?
It's pickle juice. I absolutely love pickles. And I found that drinking a lot of pickle juice helps me. I don't really cramp up, which is nice, and it's probably because of that. Salt and vinegar content helps me out. And, I forgot what lap I was on. That was earlier in the race because I actually sat down and I was actually at my tent. And we just had this huge jar of pickles. And I'm like, I don't even care how many lips are on this thing. I'm drinking this. So, it's catching on.
There are some questions that come up all the time from people who are kind of new to the sport. What should I wear gloves? How do you get over this obstacle? And another one is, what do you do about cramps? And there's salts. People talk about salt packets, mustard packets, but people don't talk about pickle juice. Pickle juice is the best way to take care of cramps, I think.
Well, if you've noticed, they're doing pickle shots, like 5 hour energy bottles that are just nothing but pickle juice now. Think about that, how much that's probably marked up, in the retail market.
I'm sure. I bought them off Amazon. You can get like a 12-pack. Yeah, no, absolutely. I own some of those, man.
Yeah. And it's just like, all right, cool. I'm always known for buying those cheap pickle in a bags that you see at crappy gas stations.
Next to the pig's feet?
Probably. But, they come in a self-contained, as a giant pickle with a bunch of juice in it, self-contained plastic bag, and it's like $1.39. It's like, all right, this is all I need for, a normal race. But, I don't know. I think it's great that people have what they know works for them. And I know that the pickle juice works for me.
So other than your gas station pickles, what do you like as far as nutrition?
I switched everything over to Tailwind last year, and it worked out really, really well with me. And you buy a flat of water, you pour a little bit of water out of 12, 15 bottles. Actually, at least 15 if you're going to hit 75. And then you make your mix of Tailwind in them, recap them, and then you have your pit crew ready with them to hand it off to you. And like I said, in 2015, I was eating a whole turkey sandwich. Like, that was a little excessive. So I think I finished a turkey sandwich in once every 3-4 laps last year. but it was hard to even eat that much because I was still doing so well with the tailwind that I was bringing with me. I got all the way past the cargo net before I'd finished the tailwind, and I felt great. I never, it wasn't until like the very end, I didn't slow down terribly, but there was one point where I thought, well, this is the end. I was stuck in Block Ness Monster alone. And the countdown is going, man. And I'm like, really? This is how it's going to end at 70 some miles? And luckily enough, somebody else finally came behind and we helped each other. We got through it. And I don't know. Other than that, I think that was the only point where I'm like, I don't have the energy right now. But to be honest, the end of the race, we're all supposed to be a little spent at that point.
A lot of the obstacles at World's Toughest are body weight driven. Funky Monkey, Double Rainbow, Everest, Kong. How do you handle those obstacles when you have more weight to get across?
Really good grip strength. You'd mentioned earlier people who say, oh, yeah, what gloves should I buy? Screw that. I hate gloves. Gloves just wiggle on your hands, and I really rely on my grip strength and my, the tactile feel of whatever I'm trying to grab so I can get a good gauge and how I'm going to go ahead and tackle it. So this is the thing that I try to tell people when they're trying to prepare for a Tough Mudder. Like, well, what should I work on? Should I CrossFit? Should I make, how many miles should I put on? And things like that. And I'm just saying, work on grip strength, man. You're going to need a lot of it.
What's the best way to work on your grip strength?
Just do simple things. Farmer carries, where you got two very heavy objects side by side, one in each hand. Just walk around with them. Lift them up, walk. Let it slide down your fingers a little bit more so that you're really engaging, tendons and muscles on your hands and, kind of work those out. The other things is it helps when you do a lot of multi-lap days because then you realize, hey, in the morning, this obstacle is going to be really damp. Well, Funky Monkey is a real pain in the ass when it's damp. So you got to change up your strategy a little bit. But the more and more experience you have with the difficulties, the better off you are. So if you just try to train for as many different environments, that really helps.
Did you ever make a strategic decision to fail an obstacle and just take the penalty?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Okay, so Everest is it's an energy suck. But if you looked at it, and this is 2016, if you looked at it, you could walk right by Everest, walk through a tiny little creek, which I welcomed because it was cold water, and I run hot. So that was my cool down. And you ran almost parallel right to the course. So that was simple, a real simple decision. Like, okay, just take the penalty on this, and you can conserve some energy.
What was your strategy on the hills, uphill and downhill?
Basically, I always say if it's downhill or flat, you better be at least jogging. Uphills, I am the hills bitch. I hate them. They know it. So I do like a power lean into the hills, and I will just try to keep a really good pace, but always be moving forward, even if you have to lean a little bit. Almost feel like you're falling over forward because you just want to lean into them and get up that hill. And there's been so many times I've seen people running up the hills, and they kind of look at you like no. But by the time I get up there, you'll probably be standing around with your hands on your hips, panting away, and I'll be still pretty damn good. And then I can start jogging right past you.
In the article, you said that 2016 was a lonely race for you. Why was that?
It was lonely because I had to leave behind a bunch of people and just say, I have to run my own race here, and there's no way I could do it with, I have a different skill set. I work better on some of the obstacles, so I just had to say goodbye to a lot of people, and I felt bad. But then you realize, and this is the thing I tell people, new people who are coming into Worlds, run your own damn race. If you're going to hang out with people, that's all fine and good. But if you're going for mileage, you're going to have to say goodbye and move on. So, yeah, there was a lot of times I just kind of kept running, and sometimes you get a bunch of songs stuck in your head that just keep you going, and you're just like, well, I'm not talking to barely anyone, but, you know, I've got however many hours in front of me, and I've got a goal.
How did you feel in the middle of the night? Did you ever go to a dark place in your mind?
I was actually riding really high right then. That's when I knew at 12 hours in, I had 40 miles. And I'm like, you know what? No matter what, I'm getting that 75. There's no way. Unless I get injured, man, and then I'd be pissed because I got that far. So I was doing pretty good. And then that's when I changed up my game plan a little bit for the pit to shave off even more time, just to buy myself a little bit of insurance. So, yeah, I was feeling really good there. I would say the last 2 laps were my roughest, just because, obviously, getting towards the end of the race and you're getting a little delirious, and but you're still looking at the clock, you can still do it. So, yeah.
You said you needed every minute to finish your last lap to get the 75 miles. You knew your goal was in sight, but it wasn't a sure thing. What was that last lap like?
It was, this pissed me off. They kept sounding horns, so I kept thinking it was done. But apparently it was just timing horns, but nobody really made it clear of how much time was left. So I kept having to ask volunteers. And I'm like, no, there's time left. And I'm, barely not even jogging at this point. They're like, hey, keep going, man. You got time. You can do this. It's like, you're shitting me. I just heard a horn. They're like, no, look, here's my watch. It's like, oh, shit. Okay. And I remember I got to the cliff, and the guy's like, don't even take the penalty. Here, jump off the cliff. I'm like, you're shit. I thought I couldn't do that. He's like, go, do it. All right, cool. Jumped off the cliff, and it's like, all right, home stretch.
How did it feel to cross the finish line?
Felt pretty amazing. It was a huge, huge goal of mine. And to think that I actually did it, even when I had some self-doubt. But I did it. It was, no one could really take it away from me that I completed my task. It was an amazing experience. And I tell everyone this, World's Toughest Mudder is the greatest thing I've ever done in my life. And it's one of the reasons why I am so passionate about Tough Mudder. I've thrown myself into this, and I'm, I try to do whatever I can for it.
What are your goals for World's Toughest this year?
It's funny because some people are looking at me going, hey, you should be the first Clydesdale to hit on. And I kind of have to look at them. It's like, oh, F off, please. Another almost marathon on top of what I did last year. That's going to be rough. But I already said I'm going to be upping my game, my training games. The overnight run I was talking about earlier, that's going to be sun to sun up. Get used to that. I've added more events this year. I'm currently sitting at 202 pounds. So, my weight is on point. I don't know. My hard goal, don't fall below the 75 again. I want to come back with another silver. But I'd imagine orange looks even better on me.
Do you have a goal weight, or does the weight even matter?
I don't think I'm ever going to fall out of Clydesdale status. I know I'm really close right now, but, there's plenty of reasons for it. Like I said, anxiety and the mental stuff I've been going through. But I'm sure I'll be back up like 206, 208 again. When you train that hard, you're going to gain a bunch more muscle, and everyone knows muscle weighs more than fat. So my weight will probably go back up.
What would you say to the bigger guys and girls that are intimidated by World's Toughest Mudder? Maybe they've done a Tough Mudder, but World's Toughest seems too much.
I kind of keep telling them the same thing that I tell everyone. Anyone can do this. You just have to be determined. You have to tell yourself, I'm going to try as hard as I can on this. You may not be the fastest one around. You may have to struggle on some obstacles and take some penalty laps, but in the end, it's your own race. You have to tackle it as your own being. You're not using anybody else's body. You're using your own, and you're using your own mental strength. And, I kind of use myself as an example. Like, I was 250 pounds not that long ago. And look at what I can do now. So if I can do it, hell, man, so many other people can do it. If not the same, so much better.
Chris, are you sponsored by anyone? Is there anything you want to plug?
Yeah, like I said, this getting to 75 was such a huge blessing in so many other ways. I'm a Tough Mudder ambassador now, which I absolutely love. It lets me spread the word a little bit more and get more people involved, because I think that's a huge blessing, is getting people onto a healthy path. I'm a Goat Tough athlete now, which was a huge honor. I love being part of this group. I mean, got some really amazing people in there, and I'm just honored there. Obviously, the Clydesdale Athena thing, I absolutely love. I'm putting put as much energy into that as I can, and I don't know. I throw myself into Tough Mudder so much, and with the brand ambassador stuff, that just helps me so much. And there's been other things that have kind of come up too. I went to Michigan this year. I wasn't planning on it. It wasn't on my trip. But most of us know Enter and having his car accident. And I'd been kicking around this idea since the West Coast, the Best Coast patches are out, East Coast, East Coast. And I was like, no one's representing the Midwest. So I came up and it's like, you know what? I'm just going to make it happen. So I made mid-best patches. And I figured I'm going to have a bunch of these made. I'm going to go up to Michigan, and I'm going to sell them, and I'm going to donate all the money and the proceeds that I can to Ian's medical funds. And that's been really, really rewarding too. I absolutely love that. And I'm, patches left and right. And as long as people send me their email address on the PayPal, it's really hard tracking people down. But, like I said, any which way I can get involved with Tough Mudder, I'm trying.
Chris Betcher, any last thoughts? Clydesdale or World's Toughest Mudder?
I'm very excited for the rest of the year. I added more and more races this year. And, with what has happened to me thus far this year, it's been really, really rough on me. And Tough Mudder is probably one of the last things I have left. Tough Mudder in the community. It's just been one of the greatest things to ever come in my life. And any which way I can give back, I'm always trying. And it's just such a huge inspiration and part of my life.
Special thanks to Chris Betcher for appearing in this episode. Well done, Chris. Check out the World's Toughest Clydesdale group on Facebook for more information. Also, special thanks to my dog making a guest appearance toward the end of the episode, who was either being murdered or wanted some bacon from the breakfast table. Thanks a lot, you guys.